Well, hello, everybody. My name's Jim. We're here with the Marion Homeschool Assistance Program podcast, where we talk about issues that are important to people in high school. And as a student council, we try to address things that people are talking about or dealing with. And we have a panel here today. I'm sitting with Olivia and Kasia and Josh, and they are going to talk about kind of a broad topic today. Today it is self-image. We have another podcast, if you want to go back and watch it. There was kind of on body image, a little bit more about our external appearance. Today we're going to talk more about self-image, or how do you imagine yourself to be on the inside. So one of the things that I talk about in my work is this idea that we are all telling a story about ourselves to ourselves that informs the way we see ourselves. So how do we believe that we show up in the world? What are the things we think that people think about us? I don't know. Have you ever thought you thought people knew something about you, but you turned out they didn't think that thing that you thought that they thought? Okay, anyway. That's the confusion. It's like, how do we develop an image that's consistent with what is the truest parts of who we are, and that allows us to show up in the world and have healthy interactions with others? So that's kind of our intro here. When you guys think about self-image and about the story you're telling yourself, what are some things that come to mind that you either have experienced yourself or that you hear other people talk about?
The first things I think about are more so generic things, like I'm a student, I'm homeschooled, I take these classes, not necessarily positive or negative things, which I think can be helpful so that I'm not super caught up in like thinking too high or too low of myself. I think both can be a problem. So
I think for me personally, I think of stuff that I can or can't do. It's like I am a younger sibling, so I think of like, oh, my brother does this, but I can't do that. Or my sister does this, but I can't do that. So just that sort of thing.
Do you find those things are like limiting? Like I mean, those are statements of truth, right? So at some point, you can't drive and then you can drive. Or at some point, you can't go out kind of on your own with friends and then you can. Or these kinds of things are true. Do you find that those kinds of limiting statements impact the way you see yourself?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. What about you? What are you thinking over there, Josh?
I was just thinking of, if you haven't watched it, go watch it right now. But Inside Out 2 is all about like the theory of like, not theory, but it's all about like our belief systems, and the more like negative beliefs we have on ourselves really affect us, and the more positive like beliefs we have about ourselves and the whole like world kind of affects like the trajectory of like our whole life, basically. Like really negative beliefs about you personally take a very, very serious toll on your decision making and stuff, and positive beliefs can like make you more confident, and also like, yeah, just the kind of ways you think about yourself and the world. So I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, no, Inside Out 2 is a great and well-researched, actually. They even did more research, I think, on Inside Out 2 than they did on the first one, because they wanted it to be consistent. I mean, it's a cartoon, okay? So it's not like there's no little guys up there.
really?
Well, some people there are, but for most of us, we don't have little cartoon characters running up around in our head. But conceptually, we have a lot of competing stories in our heads. We have competing voices. It's kind of a weird thing to think about. But if you've ever had this situation where you said, well, part of me wants to, but another part of me, like, have you ever had that experience? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's legit. Like, there's actually different sort of competing parts of ourselves that kind of inform the way we see ourselves. And we have to have a way to step back from that. Maybe I would say, and not necessarily say, I agree with you, but I disagree with you, but to hear all of those voices and what they're trying to tell us, to really be able to synthesize it, what I call, and I think is a good term for it, an integrated self-image. It's taking all those parts and turning them into a whole. So yes, we have inside voices, but those voices kind of then impact how we show up in the world. And when you're a little person, you don't really have an opportunity to have an internal dialogue, right? Like everything you learn about yourself, you learned from outside voices. Does that make sense? Like when you were 3 years old, you're not going around saying, I wonder who I should listen to today. You just took the input that you had. But now that you guys are a little bit older, what are some of the external voices that challenge your internal self-image? If that makes sense, right? You have a lot more feedback than you had when you were 3. It's pretty much your family when you're 3. But you're older now. You have a lot of other competing voices from the outside. What are some of those?
I think like community and friends is a really big part of that. And I think I've realized especially over these past like 2.5 years, how important it is to like have constructive like friends, and like when you're talking with people, to have people who build each other up rather than kind of like make fun of each other to make themselves look better. Like, and I've noticed that, especially over this past couple of years. It's been really interesting, especially like if you think something like nice about somebody, giving them a compliment, or like whenever I receive compliments, it's very, very reassuring, and I think it's more important than we realize in the moment, and just how important like our effect on other people can be, as well as like how we take other people's like information when we're talking with friends and family and whatnot. I think that's really important.
I like that. So definitely being aware that like in peer relations to start with, there are people who are going to be better for your self-image than other people, and being honest about that. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. Other outside sources that you guys think of, or something similar to that?
For mine, I mean, obviously, like, your self-image is a lot of confirmation bias and, like, what you believe you're looking for evidence and things that are outside. I think a way that I can improve my self-image is thinking about how I use my time. Because if I'm spending my time on my phone, comparing myself to other people, then not only am I comparing myself, but I'm not improving what I do with my time. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's really, yeah. You're stuck in a loop that doesn't give you an opportunity to get out of the loop that you're stuck in. Yeah, wow, I like that. That's really good. Anything come to mind for you?
Basically what both of them just said.
Yeah. Yes, and it's tricky because you can get a lot of input in a short amount of time from social media, from the internet. You can get like a lot of stuff going into your head, which also can become confusing because it's like too many voices. Can you talk about a little bit more about confirmation bias? Because I think people have heard that, but I'm like, how do you understand that? Because it's a really good thing, and it's important in self-image.
Yeah, so how I understand it is you have a belief about something, in this case about yourself and the kind of person that you are. So if I believe that I'm a smart person, I'm going to listen to all the people who say I'm gifted, or to all the people who say I work hard, or to all the tests where I get a good score. So that's how I understand it.
Right, sure. And similarly, if you have a negative belief about yourself, you will watch for feedback that confirms it, which then strengthens that self-image, which makes total sense.
Yeah.
If you think about it, right? Like our brains are lazy, okay? Let's just name that right now. Our brains do not want to think too much. Like it takes a lot of energy. And so it's easier to find things that agree with you than it is to think about the possibility that what you think about yourself might not be accurate. There is, in each one of us, and depending on how you think we came about, but there is within each one of us sort of a core sense of who we were made to be. That's not like, I am not supposed to be Josh, he's not supposed to be me, and it's not just because I'm old and have shorter hair. Okay, like it's not that. It's much deeper than that. There are certain gifts and abilities we all have. That's kind of the core true self that we're supposed to be. And we spend a lot of our life kind of protecting that true self from getting hurt again. And that can develop some of the negative self-images. That's really complex. Did that even begin to make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
And so what we have to do is we have to have strategies to protect ourselves. Yeah, nobody goes around saying, please hurt me again. Okay, I want to feel bad again. Nobody says that. but we can get into patterns that protect ourselves from being hurt, and the self-protection, we can start to think that's who we are. So I'm just a person that nobody likes. I'm just a person that can't get along with people. I'm just a person who fights all the time. It can be all of those, but as soon as we say, well, I'm just one of those people who, then that becomes an identity. And then we begin to act on that as if, well, I'm just one of those people who, and there's nothing I can do about my anger. There's nothing I can do about my depression. There's nothing I can do about my ADHD, my anxiety, all those different things. That makes sense?
Yep.
I don't think I'm supposed to teach on here, but that's what I ended up doing there because I think it's a really important thing. So maybe, like what time flies, maybe we can talk about like what are some strategies that you would suggest to other high school students to deal with this issue. I don't even want to say to get a better self-image because that we should all be doing that. But like, what are some strategies that are helpful to you to feel more grounded in your sense of self and to feel a more positive self-image within you?
I guess for me, it's just like, for me personally, it's remembering like I'm made for a purpose and I'm made how I am for a purpose. And then just being willing to listen when somebody tells me that I might not be what I think I am. Like, if I think I'm bad at reading and somebody says, oh, you did that really well. It's like, instead of just shutting it down, being like, did I do it well? Maybe I did. Maybe I just wasn't letting myself see that.
Okay, is that a legit one for you? Like,
Yeah.
because that was for real. Like what you just said was so real. And I know in school things, because that's kind of my job. I spend a lot of time working with kids for whom school is hard. And then it becomes that identity. Oh, I'm bad at whatever the topic is. And then when people say you did well at that, they say, oh, I got lucky. As opposed to, or if you really knew. So that was what you just said was super legitimate for you personally. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. That was really good. And that's for everybody out there. And I think maybe what I heard with that is if there's a part of you that has a negative sort of definition, I'm one of those people who, that's the one you should really narrow in on and look for evidence to the contrary. Oh, that's good. Other things that you would suggest in terms of, Josh said, choose your friends well. Choose your voices well. I think that's good. Other things.
I would say I tend to have a more accurate self-image when I'm not focusing on myself all the time. So that can be like I can get prideful or I can be like self-deprecating and like being down myself. So if you spend time, I mean, you think about like America today, like everyone is so focused on themselves, but people didn't used to have all these self-image issues because we weren't thinking about ourselves as much, you know? So when we were actually like doing things with our time and like working hard at things and like thinking about other people and how can I help other people, then you're not going to think too high or low of yourself if you don't think about yourself as much.
Wow.
Not to say that you shouldn't like care about yourself and like, I don't know, like get enough sleep and like, you know, like there are good and bad qualities about every person. So not that you don't exist anymore, but yeah.
This is super good. There's a famous quote from C.S. Lewis. I hope I don't get this one wrong, where he said, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking about yourself less. And I think that's kind of what you said there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right, we are close to being out of time. So let's maybe, I'm going to throw one on the table, see if you can come up with something. One thing you would suggest that everybody build into their self-image. Like, so this is universal. So your self-image might not be, I am a great engineer. Okay, that's not it. But what is one thing you would suggest that people kind of own as a core that's been useful for you? And Kasia, you already kind of started this. So can you say again what you said really works for you?
Like, I said was like remembering that I'm here for a purpose. Like I believe I was made for a purpose by somebody who has a purpose for me. Yeah. So just remembering that and believing that is definitely a big help for me.
That's super good. And that's kind of a core thing that could be universal for everybody, right? Some of these core universal things can really help us not only with our own self-image, but then connect with other people across that. All right, Josh or Olivia, you got one? It can be the same, but I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know how many universal things we can have, but
I mean, I think an I can mindset is often good if it's a good thing that follows the I can.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, okay, all right.
Little engine that could.
Anything?
I can't think of anything right now.
Okay, that's fine. I think the idea though is to find those things that are independent of present circumstances. So purpose is something that has nothing to do with whether you had a good day at school or a bad day at school or a good day at work or a bad day at work. Purpose goes beyond that. I can doesn't mean I did. It means I can, right? It's not I did it today. It's even though I may not have today, I still have the potential to do it. Those kinds of things. And when we build our self-image around things that are not dependent on immediate feedback and immediate circumstances, it becomes less fragile. But when our self-image is based on, to use the social media thing, how many likes we got or those kinds of things, we are at the complete mercy of other forces. And when our self-image is dependent on other people's feedback, it becomes fragile. And when it becomes fragile, we become fragile. And we don't want to do that. We were made for better things than that. Super good. All right. Well, thanks. This is fun. We didn't really know what we were going to talk about, but this was really a good one. Hey, we are Marian Homeschool Assistance Program Student Council podcast. And every once in a while, we sit down and talk about pressing images for people in high school. Pressing issues. And we hope you've enjoyed this and hope that you'll watch other episodes on our YouTube channel. If you have anything that you would like from us or think that we can be helpful, please contact us at the Marian Homeschool Assistance Program in Marion, Iowa. And we'll see you next time.